That kind of thing only happens in the movies. Movies.
I love fourth wall breaking comedy. In any piece of narrative fiction, there is an implied wall between the characters and the audience. Even if you only see the story framed within 3 walls, there is an invisible fourth wall that must never be acknowledged. Except when it is. Sometimes a writer will break the fourth wall, letting a character acknowledge the audience, make fun of their presence within a piece of fiction, or subvert the medium entirely for comedic effect.
We so rich. Why we can't afford no ceiling?
This can be anything from simply talking to the camera to complete logic-breaking absurdity, and I love it in all its forms. Eddsworld is no stranger to this trick. As early as 2006, videos had narration and reading to the audience, which is, technically speaking, a kind of fourth wall break. But as time went on, these jokes became a little more meta, playing off the format of the show itself.
Should we start the next episode now? Yeah, okay.
Some of these fourth wall breaks have been incredibly on the nose, and some have been a little more subtle, sometimes referencing the show without technically shattering immersion. The now infamous "I'm going to miss Tom's car" joke is genius, and I didn't even notice it the first time around. It works so well because new viewers who may not be massive Eddsworld nerds can still find the scene funny, but it's even funnier when you know that what they're actually talking about here is the old showrunner, something that most people were able to pick up on. It's a really cool moment that respects the past, nods at the difficulties they faced, and passes the torch on to the show's future. That's not to say that fourth wall breaks have to be subtle. Casting Call is legitimately one of my all-time favourite episodes and possibly my favourite of the new generation, and that video is fourth wall breaking to the very limits of common sense in the best way possible. I love the jokes in this video, but I would never want every video to be like this, with the characters breaking character every 2 minutes to acknowledge the fact that they're animated. What works about Eddsworld's fourth wall breaks and self-referential humour is that they are so relatively rare. They're breaks in an otherwise consistent universe. I think fourth wall breaks work best when they catch the viewer completely off guard, subverting the medium of storytelling in ways that are genuinely new and unique and surprising. There are only so many ways you can do that without becoming repetitive, which may be why this kind of humour is not so universally loved. As with any reference-based comedy, an argument could be made that fourth wall breaks should always be used sparingly. There is, however, one exception. You may not remember this show, it was on Cartoon Network for 3 years between 2007 and 2010. So depending on who you are and when you're watching this video, this show is older than you are. But as somebody who grew up with it, I can tell you firsthand that Chowder was legendary for the extent to which it broke the fourth wall.
Chowder, look at what you've done! Now the animators are gonna have to draw all this fire!
Not only would characters consistently talk about how they exist in an animated show, sometimes tearing apart the scene or drawing on the TV screen and interacting with the Cartoon Network logo, it was part of the plot in some episodes.
Just great. You broke the TV. You happy?
I'd argue that cartoons, and possibly to an even greater extent video games, are particularly well suited for fourth wall breaks. There are so many more tools at your disposal that the number of ways to subvert the medium is near infinite, and a show like Chowder was never content to break the fourth wall in the same way twice. I think Chowder manages to pull off this constant attack on the fourth wall because everything about the show was nonsensical in every way. Chowder's world exists in its own plane of logic, so it doesn't feel jarring when something otherwise illogical happens. I think Chowder manages to pull off this constant attack on the fourth wall because everything about the show, I've already read this bit. I attribute this absurdity to Chowder's creator, C.H. Greenblatt, who is also literally God in the show because he created everything. That's kinda clever. He worked on every episode of Chowder to some capacity, but if you know him for anything, it's probably what he did at the very start of his career, writing for Spongebob SquarePants. This show was another of my absolute favourites growing up, and looking back I'd forgotten just how many fantastic fourth wall breaking jokes there were. I'm not sure why I'm surprised. This was the show where one of the most memorable episodes was literally a training video for the audience. and you may be unsurprised to hear that C.H. Greenblatt was a co-writer on that episode. Now just to be clear, C.H. Greenblatt did not write for every episode of Spongebob, and in fact no writer ever worked on an episode alone. But looking through the few episodes that he did have a writing credit for, you can almost tell which jokes were written by him. Almost every episode he worked on has at least one memorable fourth wall break, including possibly my favourite episode, Wet Painters, which has no fewer than 2. He co-wrote the Gorilla Suit episode. That's the kind of madman that we're dealing with here. I can't confirm that he wrote any of these jokes in particular, but knowing his other works, I would not be surprised if he had some hand in bringing each of them to life. I've not seen his recent cartoons, but if they're anything like what he's done in the past, I'm sure they're worth a look. Not every fourth wall break is comedic in nature. Narration and talking to the audience directly is a form of fourth wall break. This goes against the golden rule of show don't tell, but when done properly it can deliver exposition, provide a framing device through which the story is told, or just express an emotion or idea in a more dramatic way. If I'm being entirely honest with you, I'm not a writer and I can't tell you what makes a good fourth wall break. I just know that they make for some of the most memorable comedic moments of all time, and I always love to see them. It's sad that so many of the most iconic fourth wall breaks came before the turn of the millennium, especially in movies that otherwise haven't aged very well. But every now and then, an artist will do something with their medium that genuinely surprises me, and now that we're in an age of the internet at a time when the rules of content creation keep changing, it's worth remembering that some rules were made to be broken.